just all I'm going to do next is hook up all the wiring the way it should be to my circuit board there, and the way it was on our prototype and the way it is on our schematic. I'm just going to do the exact same connections to my circuit board here, and then I'll come back after I've got that finished. Okay, now I've got the wires from the switches into the board where they need to be, as we did for the prototype for the power supply. So I'm using these orange straws here. I kind of had an idea of wanting to put some wire loom in here, but I thought, well, why don't I use some Bendy straws, because I have a whole bunch of these orange Bendy straws and I don't have any smaller wire loom for wire this small, so I'll just cut down the centers of them and attempt to use these orange Bendy straws as wire loom. And what I'll do is I'll come back later and I'll use some hot glue and glue them down to the board like that, and then maybe it'll keep things nice and neat and straight, and maybe a tad bit protected from items that you may store inside the box. So anyway, the next thing for me to do is to start putting in all the LEDs and do the connections. All the LED connections will be done through the screw terminals, and I'll do the final two connections for the 12 volt adapter here, the input. They're both going to go to ground, and I'll just put those to the common ground, and then at that point we'll be pretty close to being done, and then I'll move on to the 9 volt battery power supply after that, which is a real simple switch circuit, and then we'll be pretty much finished after that. So I'm looking to be pretty close to the finish line for this project. So next I'm going to install the LEDs and then put the ground on the adapter input here, and then I'll come back and we'll move on from there. Okay, I got all the LEDs set, I think, except for this white LED. That's the one that goes to the 9-volt uh, battery power supply that I'm going to do next. But I'm going to be using these project boxes that fits the PCB board quite well. It'll cover all this up. I can screw it on there, and I'll glue the base down to the wood box later with hot glue. And again, I'm going to hot glue down these orange bendy straws, and I'm going to try to clean up this wiring off camera a little bit, maybe use some more of these bendy straws. I might try something else, I don't know yet, but I'm just going to clean up the wiring, get this project box secured in here, and then the next thing I'm going to need to do is prepare this jumper wire here. That it's the one that is for our benchtop power supply output, and I'll feed it through the underside of that rubber grommet, and I'll add a pin at the end of it so we can pin it into the breadboard later on. I'm going to also, what else am I going to do? Well, I guess after that I'm be working on putting together the 9-volt battery power supply circuit, which is, I'm just going to put it on a small PCB board like this. It's only going to have a resistor and an LED on it anyhow, and some wires feeding into it, and a switch for switch 3 will be on there as well, and then that'll be it. We'll be done. So let me do some of this stuff off camera, and then I'll be back. Okay, I think I finally got everything situated. I glued my makeshift wire loom orange bendy straws down, and I ended up deciding that using the straws maybe not such a good idea. I mean, it'll work, but you know, there's a lot going on with the wires here. I just figured it wasn't worth it, so I just ended up zip tying stuff together to make it neat. um, I got the box hot glued down. I got the project box hot glued down to the art box. I I also connected the ground wire, the common ground wire, to the you remember the common ground terminals that I had. It was the group one side of terminals on the PCB board. I considered the common ground screw terminals. I ended up cutting a length of black wire, screwing it into one of the screw terminals for the uh, power bar for the common ground, and I attached the other end to the green binding post, because the green binding post is our common ground binding post. And I also attached at the end of that common ground black wire another uh, ring connector, so that's slipped on the binding post here, and then I used the nut and screwed it down. What else did I do? I put the LEDs in place. I have the red LED here for the benchtop power supply red light indicator. I have the blue LED in place, and I also have the yellow LED in place. And then I have the green LED in place for the indicator light for the 12-volt charge adapter input. So now I need to move on to the 9-volt battery power supply circuit. So I've got a few things set up already. I have this 9-volt battery uh, holder that just slips it in there and attaches in there, and this little door slips on. We have our black and red wire for negative and positive. This battery box happens to have an on-off switch, which is kind of nice. It'll give the option in this case for two on-off switches, one on the case and then the one on the rocker switch here. So I have this prepped. I've already tinned the end of the wires. This is the white LED we're going to use as our indicator light for the 9-volt battery power supply. I've already tinned the ends of the wires for the white LED. And I also cut a length of black wire. I attached a ring connector on one end, and I've stripped the end of the other end of the wire and also tinned that end. This is going to be the ground wire that comes from the this ring connector side is going to attach to this. This is the small black binding post for the 9-volt battery power supply, and then this other end is going to attach to our circuit board to our white LED, and then this 820 ohm resistor that I have here. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to take what I need out of it because I need some space to be able to put my LED and resistor on this PCB board. This is a 2 centimeter by 8 centimeter PCB board, and the only things we're going to put on here is this 820 ohm resistor, our white LED, the two positive and negative wires from the 9-volt battery box, and then two positive and negative outputs that will go, one, the positive goes to that rocker switch, and then the other end, like I said, which is this one, goes to the black binding post. So I haven't really decided where I'm going to put anything. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to place the resistor, let's say here. Just anywhere is fine. I'm going to bend down the terminals on the other side. Guess I'll go ahead and solder that up. I'm not going to trim the leads just yet. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and I need the anode of this white LED, and I'm just going to place it to right next to one of the leads of the 820 ohm resistor. Now I'm going to bend that lead over towards, or I'm going to bend the end of the wire over towards that lead of the resistor, and then I'm going to solder the wire in place, and then I'm going to attach the end of the wire and the lead of the resistor together, or I'm going to solder it together, I mean. So now I am going to hold off on the black wire from the cathode of the LED. I will go ahead and solder the leads of the battery pack to the board. I think I'm just gonna, let's see, how is this gonna be placed in the box? It's gonna be in there like so, maybe. Yeah, it'll be like that. And then, so I want this to maybe face this way. I'm going to want a battery pack to also fit in here, and I can go ahead and I'll just go ahead and attach the wires close to all that, so that'll be okay. Ground wire all connected. I'll remove this, move it off to the side. I'll remove all this. Bring the box back in. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm going to go ahead and put the box in here, set it down there for a minute. That's where I want the box to go. I got to determine now how I want all this to go. I think I need the battery box to be like this. I need my LED and my ground wire. I think what I'm going to do first is connect the ground wire, because I'm starting to get tangled wires everywhere. Okay. Now, this is all going to sit like so. I need the LED so I'm going to feed it here. And its place is supposed to be here. And I'll use a zip tie later to kind of clean this up. But what I want to do is I want to glue this battery box to the inside of the project box with glue, with hot glue. That way this won't move, and I can still remove the lid to change out the 9-volt battery. So I think I'm gonna first glue down the project box, and I kind of want it in this corner like this. First I got to make sure I got the right side gluing down, because I need to be able to screw the screws in the box. So that should do it. Okay, I'm going to place it right here. Press down firm a little bit. I think if I can, want to move away from the edge just a little bit, just in case I can't put the box on. It wouldn't be good to put this down and not be able to put the lid on it. What I'm talking about is leaving a little gap here to make sure I can put the lid back on and screw it down. That should be good enough. So this is secure to the box. Now I need the switch side facing up, and I need to face this way because I need the box to come off. So I guess I'm going this way. If it's here, I need to be able to make sure I can slide that off of there and still gain access to the switch. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. Hopefully I'm not gluing something else shut that I don't want shut. Let that rest for a moment. And I'm just going to throw this in here like so, making sure all the wires and stuff are out of the way. So let me get a 9-volt battery. I'm going to make sure I can open that and place this inside. I still haven't charged this battery, by the way, so it's not going to be 100%, so it's okay. I'm ready to test this out and see if it works. Okay, there's that. Here's my lid, and make sure everything's out of the way. I'll take that off. Yeah, that's better. Like so. And I'll put the screws in. Okay, now I'm going to zip tie these two black and white wire somehow. Now I'll trim that back. Okay, so I think everything is where it should be. Oh, nope, jump the gun. I need this. I needed this to go to the breadboard. That's what I needed to do. I got so excited that I jumped the gun and I was putting everything together. I guess in the excitement of gluing everything down, I forgot about putting that red wire on. Okay, now I think we're set. Okay, we're that much closer to testing this out, seeing if it's gonna work. Wouldn't that be horrible to do all this and nothing works? Stuff like that's happened to me. I usually just give up for the day at that point and come back tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna shut the lid. And actually, forgot that we needed to do this too. This is my output lead for the benchtop power supply. So my input would be here and my output would come from here. And I just noticed that my green LED light indicator is not all the way out. So I'm going to shove that in there if I can. Oh, that's a tight fit there, huh? All right, had a slight bit technical difficulty there. This little green LED light indicator was not sticking out all the way like the other ones, and it was because I made the hole so close to the corner that the glue from when they made the box was in the way, and it wasn't allowing the LED to go all the way through, so I had to trim that glue off. So that might be something you need to be conscious of if you haven't already drilled your holes yet and you got glue blobs in the corners of your box like mine. But anyways, what I was trying to get at was the last thing I need to do now is put a little pin connector at the end of this wire, because this is going to be where the output from the benchtop power supply is going to come out of, and you can take the end of it and use the pin to place it into the positive rail for the power rails here. I might actually just trim this a little bit more, quite a bit. It doesn't need to be that long. But anyways, this is the output to the positive of the benchtop power supply. This is the output and this is the input. So you would take your input from your benchtop power supply, you put it here, and then put your negative from the benchtop power supply at this green binding post, and because this is the common ground here. So let me trim this first. Oh, I'm going to trim it right there, and then let me get my connectors. These are called Molex connectors, at least that's what I think they call them. And there's, if you get a set of them like this, they have these kind of needle ends. Let me move the light here, which you can place into a breadboard point. I'm going to break one of these off, and that would allow me to place into the breadboard and take it out. So I need to grab one of these plastic, I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of like a sheathing for this guy. And what I would do is I'd use a special pair of crimpers. I'll show you in a minute. It's kind of hard to see here. I will place the wire in here, I'll crimp it down, and then this slides up in here and it'll poke out the other end out of this hole here, and that'll allow me to, you know, pin in this wire into the power rail. Now I have to get that tool, and that tool looks like this. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm gonna have to take my time here. So I need to strip the end of the wire, and I've done this before on camera for a project. I think it was for the Scrubber Bot project, and I did a really up close kind of how-to on how to crimp these Molex connectors onto a wire and use this tool and all that. So if you want to check that out, you can go to our page at mopbots.com and just search for Scrubber Bot. I can't see anything. I need to turn this box. Okay, I'm back now, and I've got the pin connector at the end of the wire. So like I said, you'll just be able to place that pin into a lead, or into the positive rail of the power rail here, and that'll give you access to voltage output of whatever voltage you're using from your benchtop power supply. So let's go ahead and test this out and see if it works. I think the first thing I'm going to test out is the charge adapter. Okay, moment of truth. Is it going to light up? Okay, that's in. Yay! So that lights up. So that means that when I flip the switch to the left, this is switch 1. That activates the power coming in from the 12-volt charge adapter. And then, let's see, there's the blue LED, but my yellow LED is not coming on. Okay, let me check that out. Okay, so I plugged in earlier. I flipped switch 1. My green LED came on, and then I flipped switch 2. My blue LED came on, but my yellow LED did not come on. So now, if we take a look, you can see that when I turn the switch on, the green LED comes on. That means we're getting power from the 12-volt charge adapter. There's the green LED, it's on. I'll turn it off. Let me put it up here. It's on, off, on. Now, if I were to turn the switch this way, you can see that the blue LED comes on. blue LED on. But earlier, if I were to flip the switch the opposite way, switch 2, the yellow LED would not come on, but now the yellow LED comes on. So the reason why it would not come on is because it was a soldering issue. My ground pin from my 7806 voltage regulator wasn't quite soldered to the rest of what it's supposed to be connected to, as shown in the schematic. So the way that I tested that out is I used a multimeter. I switched it onto this diode test, which is also the continuity test, and I just checked for continuity and kind of traced my way throughout the board and around the wirings to see if everything was okay. Everything was, and the only issue I was finding was from the ground pin of the voltage regulator to the common ground, and I was not getting a sound or signal from the continuity test. So that fixed it. I just added a little more solder, checked it again, everything works fine. But another thing, I totally forgot to put the output wires while I was doing all this for the yellow and blue binding posts, and that's for our 6 and 9 volt output from the 12 volt charge adapter. So now I need to go through the process of installing those wires. I'm trying to put these green LED back. I know you can't see me. I'll turn it this way. But that's the next thing to do, and hopefully everything will turn out fine after that and we won't run into any more problems. But I do need to put those output wires from the voltage regulators to these blue and yellow binding posts. So what I'm going to do real quick, oh, and if you're wondering, this is just a piece of foam that I cut. That way when I stick this back in here, it's not sliding around everywhere. It stays put in there when you're moving the box around. So that's what this is. I didn't discuss that before. So now I need to get, I guess I'll start with the blue wire. I'm gonna get a length of blue wire, I don't know, let's say 10 inches, just to be safe. I'll snip the wire, strip the end of the wire, and what I'm going to do is on one end, I'm going to install a ring terminal for it. I'm going to need 2 of these, by the way, because I need it for both of the binding posts. So I'm going to stick a ring terminal at the end of one of the ends of this wire. Actually, I'm going to have to take 2 black wires because those blue wires are a little too small for the ring connector. So it doesn't matter what color you use as long as you got the wire. So I'm going to attach the ring connector. I need the crimping tool. Okay, there's one wire. I need a second wire. Okay, now I have my 2 wires for my outputs from the voltage regulators. I actually need to strip the other ends of the wires quickly. Okay, have my 2 wires. I need to tin both ends of those wires. There's so much stuff in the way. So, tin the ends of them. So I need one of them to go to the output of the 7806, and I need to determine where that output is at. I think I need to trim this wire just a little bit because I don't want a bunch of extra wire sticking out and possibly causing a short somewhere. So right now I'm just determining, making sure that I'm actually soldering to the output of the voltage regulator I want. In this case, the 7806. I think that's okay, I hope. So that's that one. And again, I need to trim some of this off. And this is this output here for the 7809. I want to put a little bit more solder on that first wire on the 7806. I got to be careful not to solder to anything else. Okay, there's my output wires. So I'll go under this red wire, I guess. Now, this one is the 7809 output, so I need to be sure to place it at the blue binding post. Okay, there's the one for the blue, and this one's for the yellow or 7806 output. I'm going to go under all this stuff here, and this is going to the yellow binding post. Okay, I think that's it. Now I gotta adjust these wires again and put the lid back on. Put the other lid on. Okay, now I'm going to close the box. I'm going to plug in the 12-volt charge adapter. Turn the switch on. Green light comes on, telling me that the charge adapter power is on. If I switch number 2 here, I go this way, 6-volt supply is on. Now the blue light is on when I flip the switch the other direction. That tells me that the blue supply is on. I mean the 9-volt supply is on. For me to test out this side, I can turn the switch on for the battery, and I forgot that there is another switch inside, and I shut it. Let me take a break and we'll be back after these messages. Okay, I open this up. It's the switch for the battery pack here. Remember, it has its own on-off switch, so I didn't turn it on, so I need to turn it on. I'm going to leave all this the way it is, so I'm not having to keep, tightening and... Oh, great. All right, well, in the process of going through to see if anything works on this thing, I found another mistake that I did when I was putting together the board for the 9-volt battery power supply. I guess I just was not paying attention at all. Uh, the positive supply from the battery, the red wire, should go to the switch in its on position, and then from the switch on the other side I ran another red wire that goes to the resistor. The resistor and the LED are in parallel with that input. This black wire goes to the black binding post, and I have the negative wire, the black wire from the battery, also connected to that same point. And that's it. Besides the, the LED wiring is what I was looking at just then, going to the white LED. So the resistor and the LED are in parallel with the incoming input coming from the 9-volt battery, and then we have two output terminals going to the black and the red binding posts associated with the 9-volt battery power supply. So I'm going to put this back in here real quick, and I'll put the lid back on because I've already tested to see if it actually works like it's supposed to this time, and it does. I'm still hoping I don't have to unscrew this box again. I think I've unscrewed it. I screwed it back in and I unscrewed it again about 10 times. Okay, so all that is together now. Here's my adapter for the 12-volt charge adapter. I'm going to get the power supply set up here real quick. That way we can run a quick test, see if everything's working as it should. And then if it is, we should be good to go. Should be finished. I am going to go ahead and put my power supply in. That's the power supply input. This is the power supply ground to the common ground binding post. So all I'm doing right now is making sure all the lights are going to come on. So I'm going to test the battery switch real quick. When I flip this switch, this white LED light should come on, and it does. So that means that there should be power coming in to these two binding posts, and I'll get my multimeter to test that out real quick. I should be, let me move this in the center. I should be getting a reading of about 9 volts. Again, I'm using a rechargeable 9-volt battery. I haven't charged it yet, so it's reading 8.25 volts, but that tells me that this is working properly. I will flip that switch off, making sure that there's no voltage across there, and there isn't. So I have the power supply in, but I have not turned the power supply on. Okay. I was just wanting to test the switch out. So, now the power supply is on. So the power supply is in, but it's not on because I haven't flipped the switch yet. So if I turn, oh yeah, this is switch number 1. If I flip it towards the right, the red LED comes on, which tells me that the benchtop power supply is now on, which means that the output here should give me a voltage. I have my power supply set to 12 volts right now. You can't see it, but it's set to 12 volts. So if I touch the common ground and then touch this pin here, I should get 12 volts. And that's exactly what I get. So I flip switch number 1, towards the right in this case, the red LED comes on. The power supply is now on to give to the breadboard, and that's coming out of this pin here. So that would allow me to place the pin into a positive rail for the power rail here for the breadboard, and that would now feed 12 volts in this case, because that's what I have the benchtop power supply set at. I'm now supplying 12 volts to the power rail. So if I turn the switch into the off position, the red LED turns off. In order to have the other lights to work, I need to plug in my 12 volt charger adapter. And if I turn the switch 1 to the left, the green LED indicator light comes on, but there's currently no voltage being fed in to these two binding posts yet, because I need to flip switch number 2 to control whether or not I'm using 6 volts or 9 volts. So if I switch this way, the yellow LED indicator light comes on, which tells me that there's voltage supplied to the yellow binding post, and the yellow binding post is represented by the 6 volts. So I'm going to touch the common ground and touch the yellow binding post, and we have 6 volts. If I flip the switch towards the right on the switch number 2, now the blue LED is on, so I should have 9 volts here. And I have 9 volts. So it seems to me that everything's working. I can turn things on and off, and everything seems to be working fine. So I guess we have this project finally complete. I'll create another video kind of showing and explaining how everything works, and also showing the finished product. I need to put some labels on here still, and then I have a special surprise I'm going to be putting on. I think I want to put it right here that'll help out a lot when using my new 3220 point breadboard